What is going on, Charger fans? Welcome on to the channel here on Charger Syndicate. If it is your first time ever on the YouTube channel, I encourage you guys to like, subscribe, hit the bell button, keep you up to date on everything, all Chargers news, and so much more. We are on the road to 1K for all of our social medias. Also, look me up on Instagram, on X. You guys can also find me on the AFC West Roundtable as well every Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 Pacific. It's a lot of fun, guys. Absolutely love it. But we got a lot to talk about here for today. But as you know, show is also sponsored by BetUS as well. So, all right. Where do I start from here? This was a tough battle. It was a tough test, and it was a tough battle for the LA Chargers going into this game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the Steelers gave it to us. You know, that's just kind of the look at it right now. The Steelers absolutely outplayed us in the last quarter of the game. I felt like going into it and what I talked about in the AFC West Roundtable, and even with what I talked about in our previous live stream Friday night with Dwayne Butler, this was going to be a bar fight. This was going to be scrappy. And sure enough, all that physicality, all that toughness that the Steelers ended up bringing got 4 of our guys hurt. 4 of our guys are injured after this. And we're not even sure with what their game statuses will be like come next week against the Kansas City Chiefs. So it's really tough. Justin Herbert, his ankle once again started getting re-aggravated, and that's where it forced him to have to come out of the game. And it was bad. It was a disappointing loss nonetheless, but I just think we needed to play better. There was no excuse for it. I felt like we came into this game for 3 quarters. We had 3 quarters. And all throughout that entirety of the game, it was small passes. So we opened up a bit of the pass game, which was a good thing, but at the same time, that run defense of the Steelers, this is the third straight that the rush defense has only given up 60 or less on the ground. They did a hell of a job. And the only bad part about it, we got plagued with injuries and we got plagued with flags. We had a bunch of penalties on our side. We had 7 penalties, and especially coming from a time where we only had one to 2 penalties last week against the Carolina Panthers. Now we just started getting up more. So that sucked. And I think at the end of it, this was the perfect test. This was the perfect test for us to figuring out what we're truthfully made of, how tough we really are, and especially when we're having to go next week against the Kansas City Chiefs, another division rival. That's just one game that I know it's on the back of all of our minds. So that, and trust me, this was the very first. It was the very first toughest loss in Jim Harbaugh as the head coach. The toughest one. And we got to take it. At the end of the day, we got to take it. So tough, but this is where we learn. And this is where we initially got to play better than that. So, and again, they did us a favor of basically of coming in, showing us what we're truthfully made of, and figuring out now what's the next step for next week. Because as of right now, Justin Herbert with that ankle injury was out. Rashawn Slater had a pectoral injury. He was out. Joe Alt toward the end of it. They haven't said anything as far as Joe Alt's injury, at least not of thus far. But Joey Bosa, we know, re-injured that hip. So, and this was by far one of the hardest games to really predict, because knowing Justin Herbert was hurt in the middle of this before the game even started with that high ankle sprain, that was going to be one of the question marks going into the game of whether or not we really want to start Justin Herbert in the middle of this, knowing that we have a division rival game next week. So it was the knee. Okay, so with Joe Alt, it was a knee injury. So we'd have to find out how severe that knee injury is. And the big thing, though, too, was, I mean, you have to think about it. There was a lot of good takeaways I took out of that game. The fact that we double teamed TJ Watt with both our tight end and with Joe Alt, it was holding them up. And there was a part of that was executing right. And then by the time that Rashawn Slater went out with that pectoral injury, the other side started getting opened up. It started to open. And that's where all the pressures, everybody's now starting to come up all at once. Cam Hayward, Herbig, and Peyton Wilson. All those guys on the defensive front. That is by far one of the toughest defensive fronts that we've had to face. And Pittsburgh always does. Pittsburgh always does. And I just felt like in the middle of the entirety of the game, we were controlling 3/4 of that game with how tough that Pittsburgh defense is. Like, we were controlling up that game. Not to mention, if you saw it a couple times on a couple rushes, J.K. Dobbins was finding any and every way that he possibly could to shred past this D line, but was unsuccessful. That's why we got held up for as low as we did. Just sucks. You know, it sucks knowing that we're going into a week against a defense like Kansas City's, and especially when it's a division rival like that. We're going to look like damaged goods if that becomes the case. We didn't use Madlock enough. Yeah, we actually didn't use Scott Madlock, our fullback, enough like we should have. And the funny thing of it is, when you look at it, Scott Madlock is meant to be our guy that is meant to be that physical guy. He's meant to be that secondary person that could honestly end up providing those blocks. And it's kind of funny. I thought, honestly, we could have used a little bit of him as a secondary blocker if we needed to on that left side. I mean, think about it. When you would have a two running back set where you would have Madlock on the left, and then you would have either Dobbins or you would have Gus Edwards up and on the right, knowing that everything was going right that way, at least have that secondary guy right there holding him up. Because you got to ensure a clean protection. And they did, they did well. They did well all in those first 3 quarters until the fourth absolutely killed us. It freaking killed us. But we have to take it. We got to take it. And now that we are dealing with injuries to 4 of our key positions, quarterback, edge, and then both our tackles that were great through 2 weeks. So, not sure how we're going to end up approaching this one, honestly. So, got a couple of audios to play for you guys. So, here was Jim Harbaugh up and at the end of the game. We're going to play the post-game press and see exactly what he had to say on this.
Jim, what did you take the way guys played today, the team played?
I thought they were fighting the whole time, and a lot of good football played. And then the the fourth quarter, the wasn't our best. The field position was against us. And then we just we didn't get it finished. Not every game's going to be a fairy tale ending. And give credit to the Steelers for in all three phases there at the end.
And you Justin got hurt, Rashawn, Joey, Joe. Do you have an update on any of the injuries?
No, I don't have an update to give you right now. I know Justin. As soon as I saw, he got up. My plan was, first sign of any kind of any limp, then he was coming out of the game. So I took him out. Joey, I think he re-aggravated the hip, and Rashawn, his seemed to be a strain there of the pec.
Did Justin lobby at all to come back in or anything after you talked to him?
Oh, I knew Justin wasn't gonna take himself out. I told him that yesterday. I'll let you go, but I'm gonna. The plan was. Taylor was gonna go in, and but we were doing a good job there in the first half. Justin had a heck of a half. He's a beast, but that wasn't ever going to be his decision to play today or to stay in.
As far as starting him in the game, what was the process as far as coming to that decision? When did you come to the decision? How did you guys as a group come to the decision to start Justin?
The way he looked on Saturday, the way he was able to move around, it was much better. Felt like he could protect himself. He was in a position to be able to effectively play the position.
I'm sure you've heard how tough he's been throughout his career.
Yeah.
For you to see that on display this week, and you have a new level of respect for him.
Yeah, there's no question about that. It's at every time. I think there's not another rung on the ladder that he can go, and in my esteem, he climbs another one. But but now I knew this a couple months ago. Justin's the kind of guy you gotta pull back, because you're never gonna have to talk him into anything, but he does have to be pulled back.
You said your plan was that any sign of limp or anything you were going to take him out. So,
Any chance.
Yeah. Considering that, was there any thought in your head to not starting him and giving him a week?
Yeah, it was the possibility, but I've been in that position before. With Warriors, you give them the shot, and that's what I wanted to do.
Would you be willing to take the same approach this next week?
Well, the hypotheticals, we'll see. We'll see about those next week.
A little bit about Joel. Last couple of matches, probably great weekend. And it seemed like he held his own against Washington.
Yeah, he's Joe's been incredible. I've said it before. He's like he's been playing 5-6 years, like a six-year vet. He's gone, right out of the chute against some of the best in the game.
After Rashawn went down, moving Trey out to left tackle, just what went into that decision for you guys as opposed to maybe playing Jamari out there?
Yeah, we feel like Trey's our next best guy. He's our third tackle. He had a bit of a finger issue Trey did, so we put Jamari out there at first, and then when Trey came back, then He's our third tackle, swing tackle.
And then just as far as the protection down the stretch there, you just sort of chalk it up to moving pieces for Sean being out, or is there sort of more to it that you think went wrong as far as you guys protecting down the stretch of the game?
Yeah, I don't know that there's can't think of anything to really say there, you know,
Jim,
Other than-
the decision to,
there were, yeah, we got beat a few times.
to play Taylor over Easton, what went into that decision?
Yeah, the week of practice, I mean, Taylor and Easton got the same amount of reps, and then toward the end of the week, I gave more to Taylor because I thought he was the one that was going to give us the best chance of winning.
How tough is it to lose Joey after one play, given the rotation? You got to run out of that.
Yeah, I mean that's it's tough. Yeah, tough.
What did you see from the defense, like late third quarter, fourth quarter?
Like I said, I mean, just playing really playing great. Played great for a long time. Played great on offense for a long time. Played great on defense for a long time, and then the drive with the 3 penalties. That was even that drive. You know, they were able to hold to a field goal. 45 yards of penalties.
Do you feel that particular drive, the drive with the penalties, gave them momentum offensively?
Yeah, they got the momentum and at that point, and then kept it and they held on to it. I mean, that's the way it went. But yeah, any kind of drive, any kind of points, 3 and outs. I mean, those give momentum, and we weren't able to get it back and hold on to it.
Derwin
Just
said
the
that you
nature of high ankle sprains, sometimes they can drag on. So for you, what's the challenge in letting a guy go, want to tough it out versus being for long term for the season and not having this be an issue week after week?
Not really medically qualified to go into all that.
Derwin said that, there's a sense of motivation or appreciation for the way Justin kind of toughed it out today to give that a go. Did you get a sense that something like that kind of gives the team some juice?
Yeah, no question. I thought, and I thought, like I said, I mean, we were fighting the whole time, and I thought guys really stepped up and played good football for a long time. Now you to answer your question, all your questions. I mean, you go back now, you regroup, you refit, retool, and get ready for next week.
You said during the week that, on to Pittsburgh, let's find out what we're made of. Did you learn something about your team today, or is it hard to really figure that out considering just how many guys you lost to injury over the course of the game? Important players.
Yeah, I mean, I've already learned it about our team. I mean, we work, and they're not afraid of any challenge or any new challenge, and it's razor sharp. It's credit card, difference, the margin of, and I thought it was right there. It was back and forth. It was right where you thought it would be, and we didn't get it done. When at the end there, but
Is Taylor
we'll come fighting back.
Is Taylor the new backup then, or is that a week-to-week sort of thing?
As we've said in the past, I mean, really not going into any depth chart of backups, other positions. In the starting quarterback, like I told you, we'll talk about the starting quarterback, but really no other positions.
How do you feel Taylor performed overall when he came in?
Yeah, overall, I mean, it's I didn't think he had a great chance. Made a nice throw in the play action pass, and some of the things that we had saw him do in practice, and I was pleased. And I thought he acquitted himself really well. I wish we could have given him a little bit more time there to operate, but I was pleased with his performance. He's a competitor. Competitors are welcome. here at the Los Angeles Chargers.
So initially with this, it's a tough enough loss, and we know that without a doubt. It sucks. But here's the other thing though too, because we're also live up. I have my live stream up on TikTok as well for everybody, Charger Syndicate as well. But to answering those questions, I mean, Justin Herbert played good. He played good, but the only problem of it is that the Steelers' defensive front was just too damn good. It played physical. It played to the point where they were running the football efficiently more than we were. That's the part that I think what is really, really frustrating. And so that's why that I think initially, Justin Herbert this is why he needed the help that he did. And this is also another great reason too that we get depth. We have to get depth in this roster. And this is only week 3, guys. So to have this happen right now, this early in week 3, and then going into week 4 against the Kansas City Chiefs, and then we have the bye week in week 5 to go into week 6 where we come up out here in Denver against the Broncos. So there's plenty of time for a lot of adjustments. And the only thing that we are holding our breath on is the severity of the injuries. That's the part that we are holding a lot of our breath on. Goomba, bolt up. Shout out to you, man. But the thing, though, is no matter the situation and the outcome, it was one loss. It was one loss. I mean, that's why I was like, I had to process this as much as I could all day. And like I said, I got people up into the chats. Alex, a lot of people. I'm okay. I'm not stressed. I'm not stressed about it at all. I did feel like, processing this game, we were in a bar fight. I mean, that's all that I could sum this up as best as possible is we went into a bar fight against the Pittsburgh Steelers, got our asses handed to, and now we got to go back home against the Kansas City Chiefs, who their defensive front line is no joke. And not to mention, you're dealing with Mahomes, you're dealing with Kelsey, and you're dealing with Andy Reid. So this is the difference that you could see that coaching is a lot better. Coaching is a lot better now because Brandon Staley would never do something like this. Brandon Staley wouldn't even know what the hell he's doing. And by the way, I got to give credit to Justin Fields. Justin Fields played a good game. This is a much better, and I would say a much revamped Justin Fields that we're seeing right now in Pittsburgh than when he was with the Bears. He looks so much better. He looks efficient. And not to mention, too, when you watched how the RPOs was working in Pittsburgh, those RPOs was getting us. It was getting us to those points. But that's the other thing, though, too, is our defense was playing really, really well until it got gassed. It got gassed, and, I just think that with our offense not moving the needle, not to mention J.K. Dobbins got stopped on that defensive front. And this is, mind you, this is now the 3rd straight week that the Steelers have only allowed 60 or less rushing yards. So they contained J.K. Dobbins and they contained Gus Edwards. They weren't letting any of those guys, no matter how much we were trying to match physical against physical on either of those, they came away with it. They absolutely came away with it, and I got to give kudos to the Steelers for that. And Justin Fields looked good. By the way, Najee Harris, when he got comfortable late up into that game, they started getting more of the time of possession. And TJ Watt, once the injuries started coming up, he started going off later on in the game. So it was a tough loss, but this was a great test for us. Whether we passed or we failed, this was a great test. So that's why, with Charger fans right now, be happy of the fact that, we're thinking more about the future of this. I don't need to be. I don't need to be mad. Because we knew with what we were coming into the second that we came into this game. We knew what we were getting into. So it was a great game. Why do I need to be mad? I am thinking more about the future of the injuries right now. That's what I'm thinking about, because I'm thinking about Herbert's ankle. I'm thinking about Rashawn Slater's pec. I'm thinking about Joey Bosa's re-aggravated hip. Now, the only thing is I have to find out now about Joe Alt's knee. So I'm not mad at this. We came into a bar fight. We got our asses handed to, and then we move on. Here's another audio clip. Justin Herbert talking about it, recapping this. And this is what he basically said in this game.
Justin, how was your ankle?
It's a little sore. I did everything I could to go back in there. Didn't feel like I could move around or really push off of it. So that was kind of the decision that was made in the tent.
You mentioned to us on Friday that you wanted to feel safe, like protect yourself. At what point in the process, later Friday, Saturday, this morning, did you sort of feel like, okay, I'm gonna be good? I'm gonna get you out there based on how I want to feel?
I think it was probably Saturday morning. Got to the walkthrough and was able to kind of move around better. Put some tennis shoes on and really kind of tested it out. Then went out this morning, made sure it was okay. Felt comfortable going out there.
Just on the hit, was that really what it was, or was it a sort of an accumulation of hits you took, or was it really just that specific play?
It had been getting sore up until that point, and then I think that play, I can't really remember what exactly happened to it, but it must have got twisted up again. Kind of stood back up, realized that I couldn't really move too great off of it. Got to the sideline and talked about that in the tent.
How do you kind of go through the process of wanting to be out there and wanting to play versus knowing that this is happening and not wanting it to continue to drag through the season?
Yeah, my responsibility as a quarterback is to give everything that I can to this team, to my teammates, and I felt like I did that. I pushed myself, and I couldn't go anymore, and I had a tough time walking on it, moving on it, pushing off of it, and I knew that Taylor gave us a better shot to win, and that's why we believe in him to go out there, and that's why you have guys like that on your team. I'm going to do everything I can to get back, get this thing healthy, and so we can keep rolling.
Did halftime kind of mess with your? Because we saw you activating before the game, warming up, doing all the stretching and the jogging and everything. Did that kind of, make you colder as you came in here and sat down? Yeah,
I think that can definitely play a factor into it. You get off your feet, and you played an entire half of moving around and getting the blood flowing. But I did my best to come back out after halftime, get the thing backed up. But it is, I think, ultimately that hit, a couple of hits before, just kind of built into it.
Does it feel worse now than it did after Sunday, like Monday after the Panthers game?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess that's something that we'll wait to see. I was able to finish the game, last Sunday. So that's definitely something to look at. But I know that we got the right training staff in there. We got the right medical doctors. So we're going to do everything we can to get this thing going. But we'll see tomorrow.
Justin, a few of your teammates commended your effort for kind of giving it the shot the way you did. Do you feel that? Do you feel that sort of motivational, effort that your teammates take from when you tough it out like that?
I think it's my job. I think it's my job to go out there and give everything that I've got. And I know that everyone on defense, offense, special teams, they do the same. And so when you get a locker room like that, we believe each other. And I know that everyone's hurting out there, not the way that we wanted this one to go down. But we'll get back to work and we'll get it figured out.
How did you feel in the first half?
It was good.
Did you get X-rays done today?
Yeah, a few minutes ago.
Did they tell you the results?
No, I think they're just waiting on the MRI. I don't know the exact results of the X-rays, but it's just something that I'll get done in the next couple of days.
Knowing what you went through this week to get to game day and be able to start, do you feel optimistic that you'll be able to do the same thing for next week?
Yeah, I'm hopeful. Like I said, we've got great team doctors, great athletic trainers, and as long as we're communicating, working together, I know that I'll feel comfortable, safe going out there, and they've got my best interests in mind.
Have you had a high spring?
I have not.
And just to be clear, it's like an aggravation of the same thing you were dealing with, not like a separate injury.
I would assume so. I think it's just a continuation of last week's.
What were your conversations with Taylor like after he got
it's just being supportive, to go out there and play his best ball, and we all believe in him, and we know that he's the right guy.
Yeah, so even with Herbert, he got the x-rays done. They're waiting for further evaluations just to see what the severity of the injury is. And the one thing that Jim Harbaugh is doing with a lot of his players, because he loves his players. You've seen this in Michigan. You've seen this in San Francisco. He's not going to basically throw his guys like out on their own, literally looking limped up and looking like beaten and battered and expecting them to really play out like that, because realistically, that's not how this works in this league. That's not how this works when you're coaching up into this league. That's ridiculous. So to me, I felt like it was the better thing for Justin to come off the field and in the end play the game, like let Taylor Heineke like pretty much play the rest of this game. Because as I've said before, I was glad that Heineke came out than Easton Stick. And you know how I felt about Easton Stick all throughout this whole thing, all throughout preseason. Like I was not feeling good about him. So I'm glad Taylor Heineke came out on the field once Justin Herbert got sidelined and looked through the injury. It was like I said, I am more worried about the entirety of the season than I am of just one game. I am very, very worried about that than anything else. And listen, I may have some negativity in a different chat that I have, but here's the thing is this coaching staff is completely different than the coaching staff that we had previously and prior to it. Like Jesse Minter, that defense was playing hard for all 3 quarters. 3. And until then, injuries started to pile up and the Pittsburgh Steelers played more physical ball. Like that's it. They tested a lot of our physical play and we got outplayed. That was initially what it was. So, and here's the other thing that we could take the positives on. The positives that we could take on it is Quentin Johnston already now has 3 receiving touchdowns now of the season. Johnston looks good. Ladd McConkey also got a bit involved, and like I said, they were playing to everything that we were trying to execute. So that's why you got to give credit for Pittsburgh in that game. But I'm going to share with you guys some stats as well throughout the game and just kind of get the takeaways all throughout it. And just kind of break down with what I seen from here. So in it, we're looking at quarterback play. Justin Fields clearly played better, and he executed a lot of the plays. And not to mention too, they were utilizing a lot of RPOs. And the RPOs started working. You get a quarterback as young as he is, still in at least at the prime starts of it, but he's in a better situation. So at that point, Fields distributed the football and he was able to run with it. So Justin Herbert, before he went down with the injury, was 12 of 18, 125 passing yards, 1 touchdown, no pick. And by the way, his rating was 105. So he was making sure that he was not making a mistake in this game. And not to mention getting sacked twice to one where it re-injured and re-aggravated that high ankle sprain. And then in came Taylor Heineke, was 2 for 2 for 24 yards. So Justin Fields, he had a better play. 25 of 32, 245 passing yards, 7.7 per play, and had a touchdown. And then he also had an interception, which that was huge, by the way, on our defense. The fact that the ball got batted up into the air and Bud Dupree came away with that interception. That was a big time takeaway from there. I like that because the fact that we were back in a position where we didn't want to be, did not end up converting those situations. And then by the time that the Steelers offense came out, Fields ends up making that kind of throw and he gets picked off and we get possession of on it to get at least a second chance. But we did not execute after that. So that was what was hard. J.K. Dobbins, 15 carries, 44 yards, no score. And then Najee Harris, by the way, Najee Harris didn't even break 100 yards off against this defensive front either. Like, he had 18 carries for 70 yards and averaged 3.9. So I don't understand the negativity in some of them because our defensive front was playing well. We played just close to as similarly as the Steelers were. And Cordero Patterson had 4 carries, 33 yards. So they only had broken the 114 yards as a team. But individually, Najee Harris wasn't cooking us. He had only gotten to the points where once the defense started to get gassed out, he was taking advantage of it. So looking at a lot of our receivers, Quinn Johnson had 2 catches, 44 yards, and a touchdown reception. Ladd McConkey with 3 catches, 44 yards. Will Dissly with 3, 19 yards. And then Simi Fehoko had 1 catch for 17. And Hayden Hurst also had 2 catches for 15 yards. So understanding that we know that our receiving core on paper does not seem to be the taste and the liking of everybody else's on the outside, but they're still managing to at least throw those weapons. They still manage to spread the ball out. Now, on the other side, the pass game certainly was an issue on our defense. Calvin Austin had 4 catches for 95 yards and a receiving touchdown. George Pickens had 5 catches for 57 yards. Pat Freiermuth, 4 catches, 33 yards. Scotty Miller with 2 catches and 31 yards. So the pass defense didn't look as good. And I think part of that is because we didn't have our facilitator in Junior Colson, which that hurts. It sucks, but we still had to play. We still had to go out there and play no matter what. We had to. And now thank God that the fumble recoveries that we had because Bradley Bozeman had a bad snap and we were able to come away with the football. We did not have any turnovers, but there were mistakes up on there that we should have executed better. But look at this defense, though. Diane Henley had 12 total tackles, 9 solos, 1 tackle for a loss, and a pass defended. Diane Henley is a freaking beast. Like, he's still going out there and he's picking up, even with a loss like this, he's still out there and producing. Denzel Perryman, 9 tackles, 6 solos, 1 tackle for a loss. With Derwin James, though, they were playing a lot of those blitzes where Derwin James was acting like a Mike linebacker. He came in, 8 total tackles, 5 solos, 1 sack, 2 tackles for a loss, and a quarterback hit. So, though these guys were definitely playing their best, the outcome just didn't go our way. It didn't go our way. And not to mention, Khalil Mack even came away with a big-time sack against Justin Fields. So, all together on our defense, we had 78 total tackles, 48 solos, 2 sacks, 8 tackles for losses, 4 passes defended, and then 5 quarterback hits. Like, that was huge. And Bud Dupree coming away with the interception. So, our defenses playing up against Pittsburgh's was they outplayed us by that 4th quarter. But we played up well. That's one thing that, it's a disappointing loss because there were injuries that got plagued. But I cannot be mad at the fact that our defense played their asses off. They were playing their asses off in this game. So if you look at it from a team stat standpoint on both sides, Chargers had 10 first downs and the Steelers had 20. And the total plays, we had 45, they had 65. And the total yards, they had 346 and we had 168. It was not our good day. Not our good day in that regard. Both with 10 drives, they had 5.3 yards per play, and we only had 3.7. Passing, they were able to open up. That's why I said our passing defense needs to adjust. 232 yards in the air, and we only came away with 107. That's one of those things that we needed to open our pass game up. And our passing defense needed to play man-to-man and shut-down type defenses. Calvin Austin to get open as he was and start getting first downs and scoring was hard. I mean, Calvin Austin is he's not a guy that I would honestly brush away. He beat us on a lot of those situations. And then rushing wise, they had 114 and we had 61. So overall, passing and running was not a good day. It was not. But we knew coming into this, it was going to be a bloodbath. It was going to be a bar fight. And that's initially with what this came around. And by the way, they had better time of possession than we did. They outplayed us on time of possession at 33 minutes, and we had 26. This is how hard this game was. It was a bad day. But here's the other thing, though, too. The penalties went up from last week. 7 penalties for 69 yards. And that's why I think when Herbert went down, and then, of course, when we started breaking down, penalties were starting to come up. Guys were in their head, and then we lost. We couldn't focus. So my big thing is that when it comes to Kansas City, we can't play like that, but we have to make sure that our guys are going to be good. We have to make sure our guys are going to be good. So it's a tough loss. It's a tough loss. But it doesn't take away the fact that our defense was playing as hard as they were. Quinn Johnston had a decent game, but our run game couldn't get anything going. And then that's the other thing too. When you shut down the run game, you can't get anything converted. That's the hard part. This is why we needed to have that run game. And that time around, we didn't have it. We didn't have it this week. So, but like I said, that is the third straight week for the Steelers that they've only have allowed 60 or less. So that's it. We didn't let up. This is a completely different vibe than what we're used to being around. We're not giving up on plays. We're not giving up on situations at all. We are doing our absolute hardest to get better. The two terms, retool and refocus. That's what we need to do. We got to get prepared for next week. I mean, yeah, it sucks for the loss, but I can't take this loss that hard. I can't. Because ultimately, we may see these guys if and when it comes to the playoff time. That's when we may see these guys again. But we got to punch our tickets in to get there. It's what we need to do. So you got to take it and you got to move on. Because I'm not going to put my head in the sand. I'm not going to end up, like thinking, okay, this is over for us. I'm not going to. Look, I'm listening to every single Charger fan right now, literally giving up this quick. Stop. This is not what this is. Like what we were before. Like with Staley, with everybody else. It's not. And you have to think about it because we don't even know how severe some of these injuries are yet. That's why, like, once we get the injuries and we start to get the MRIs and everything back to us, then that's when we can figure that out. And look, even when DJ Chark was out, Quinn Johnston was stepping up, and Lad McConkey is also coming away with pass catches as well. So guys are starting to step into those roles. The only difference of it is that we're not opening up the passing game, and that's the problem. So because if we don't do that, then that's where things get tough. So we're just left with more questions, and hopefully we'll get those answers. So it is just like, this is the thing, is that this is a disappointing loss, but I'm not going to just like literally put my head in the sand. I'm not giving up on this. You guys shouldn't either. That's pretty disappointing if you guys are giving up on this already. Because you know what? As real as Chargers fans are, because everybody all says, oh, well, injuries continue to plague us. Injuries. Stop it, dude. Come on. Like you guys are trying to repeat with our past. This is different. Okay? And not to mention, the thing about this is that these guys are built to get stronger. So that's why that we're going to take this loss and we're going to move forward, and we got to be prepared for Kansas City, because Kansas City plays tonight against the Falcons. I'm going to be watching that game because right now, Patrick Mahomes, he looks human. Patrick Mahomes literally looks human. He had interceptions, and there were games that Kansas City didn't even play well. They were just able to come away with wins because last week, everybody talked about it, was the crucial pass interference that we knew was clearly a PI call, and that ended up coming away with a win. And that's why, I'm like, we have to be prepared for a matchup like that. And another division rival, because just like we were against the Raiders, I mean, we were playing tough. The Raiders even came away with some of the situations against us, but we didn't let up. We didn't give up on any of those situations in any of those plays. We never gave up on any of those. So that's why we have to be better. We have to be better every single week. But we take these losses and we learn from them, and then it gets us prepared for Kansas City. Gets us prepared for our next opponent. And the thing about it is that everybody's freaking out about injuries right now. Come week 5, that is our bye week. That it started to show why I think week 5 was good with us. It's good with us because at the very least we can get through this week, go back home, and then go against Kansas City. And again, I would not be surprised that they drop this game against Kansas City at home, because our real statement isn't about up at home. Our real statement is when we have to go up on their own turf. That's what I'm prepared for. But the least that we can do is know the statuses of every one of these guys that suffered injuries today, see where they go come next week, and then we've got the bye week to recover so that we can go on a long run. Because I'll show you guys exactly, too, the schedule that we have coming up after all this. So Kansas City next week and the bye. Our schedule after all that becomes Denver on the road out here, Arizona on the road, New Orleans at home, Cleveland on the road, Tennessee at home, Cincinnati and Baltimore also at home. And then we're on the road to Atlanta and Kansas City, Tampa and Denver at home, and then New England and the Raiders on the road to finish it up. And you got to think about it. Good kudos to Denver for coming away with a win. They played good. I'm not sleeping on Arizona either. Arizona is also another tough competition. They could play well. New Orleans just got shut down by the Eagles today. They got shut down by the Eagles. Cleveland looks like a mess right now. They look like an absolute mess. Tennessee, they lost to Malik Willis in Green Bay today. And then you go and you got Cincinnati, where Cincinnati, like, they're also not a kind of team to toy around with either. And then Baltimore came away with a stunner against the Dallas Cowboys. So we'll see how Atlanta does against Kansas City tonight. And then we have that road game against Kansas City on December 8th. So that's why I'm like, relax, guys. Relax, because the fact that we have the bye week up in week 5, that's what's going to determine for us who all we know is still going to be healthy and those that we know that we have to keep a very sharp and close eye out on. All right? Like that's the whole thing. So I'm not worried about it right now. I'm not. And until the severities of the injuries get worse, like, let's not throw in the towel right now, because that's just kind of unacceptable to end up doing all of that while we're only in week 3. So let's not do that. Let's not do that today. I'm taking this loss with just everything that came up against us. So what we have to end up doing, like, hopefully we can get some really good positive news on Justin Herbert's high ankle sprain. And like I said, it could have just been, it could have been re-aggravated again, but who knows? And at the same time, like, I'm ready for next week, because that's really all that we have to be. We have to be ready for next week. So I know he's up and on a walking boot. And the only reason of that is because they're trying to keep the ankle straight. It's not completely twisted. So they have to keep the ankle straight. And so once he gets the much needed rehab that he needs to, especially after next week and then go into week 5, hopefully he'll be all right. But as far as Joey Bosa, like, this is thus the reason why that we ended up signing Bud Dupree. Right now on Joe Alt, he has a knee injury, and nobody has talked or said anything about the severity on Joe Alt's injury yet. They don't think, from the way they're looking at it, they're thinking it's not as serious. So it's a knee injury, but they don't believe it's serious. They're going to do more tests up on it to make sure that it's on the right track. But so far, Rashawn Slater, it seems to be a strained pectoral. So, yeah. I mean, I listen. These guys are not soft. They're not. And if you think about it, because the way that Jim Harbaugh works is he works these guys to get tough. He works these guys to get tough. And you also have to think about it. It's next man up mentalities when it comes to these guys. This is why that we picked up that much depth. This is why we signed Bud Dupree for that reason, for when, if Joey Bosa gets hurt, we got Thule that can come in, and then we also have Bud Dupree, who had an interception today. So, and then, yeah, because the reason of pulling Justin Herbert out of that game, knowing he limped, was so he didn't get hurt even more. Because you know how hard that is to continuously play on that pivoting foot, and then all of a sudden you can't throw the same. It sucks. It's aggravating. I've twisted my ankle before. It hurts. It's not that simple. So to put Taylor Heineke up into the game was the right game plan. And so Joey Bosa, he's on this team because he wants to be here. He wants to be here. So That's why he took the pay cut. He's invested in this kind of look, and he wants to be a part of it. Then you got to think about it. Keenan Allen is hurt. Keenan Allen's getting older, and the injuries are starting to pile up again. I mean, we did a solid. So I just think at the end of the day, we have to take this loss and move on to next week. Because I'm more prepared for Kansas City than I would be of a team that's not even in our division. We know that they're within our conference. We may end up seeing these guys potentially if we end up shooting more for the playoffs. That's the one thing that that we got to get geared for. Mind you, Staley would have never done this. Staley would have never made this kind of game plan, because he probably would have not known what to do, left those guys up out there, and then all of a sudden somebody's going to end up getting hurt, and it's a long-term deal. The fact that they pulled these guys out at a time that they did just shows they want these guys for the long term, not for the short. And that's what I'm saying. I suffered an ankle injury in the past, and it sucks. So I know the feeling of what Justin Herbert's going through. I had to literally take an impact from going at a soccer ball with a friend of mine. We both kicked the ball at the same time, and the amount of force came right back to my ankle, and it literally hurt. I was limping up on it. I could not move. I could not move. The pain was excruciating, and it sucked. And that was at a time when I literally had to walk up on stilts for a bit, just until I was able to get strength back in my ankle again. Because afterwards, that's where I started getting the oh God, I'm blanking out. The neoprene, I had to get the neoprene wraps on my ankle just for that reason. Once I got the neoprene wraps, the pain was slowly starting to swell down, and there was bits and pieces of it where it was getting aggravated, but I had to move and make sure that I was still able to make the cuts that I would, so that I made sure that my ankle's not messed up. I got lucky. I thought I screwed my ankle up when I first felt it. Luckily, it was only a sprain. So, and all you got to do is, in a lot of these reasons, and I'm sure it may be different for some of these athletes, but you just got to bathe yourself up in Epsom salt constantly. You got to end up putting a lot of that swelling gel on that ankle and all the rest of it. But it has to take time. It has to take a bit of time for it to heal. Okay? I wasn't back. I was not back at like doing a lot of activities until I got it back. That's it. So all I can say is kudos to the Steelers fans for coming away with the win. You guys played hard. You guys got us in a bar fight and, socked us in the mouth, and we took the L. It was hard. Tom, what's going on? Bolt up, buddy. Appreciate you being up into the chat. It was disappointed up into the end, but our defense never gave up. Our defense never gave up, and they ended up coming away gassed. But we do have to play better on our pass defense, because the fact that Calvin Austin was coming away with some of those big plays was unacceptable. Those were the ones that we know that we needed to shut that down. So we just got to take it. But I'm hoping we figure out what's going on with as far as the injuries to Junior Colson, Justin Herbert, Joe Alt, Joey Bosa, and Rashawn Slater. Because we got to have those guys ready to roll. We got to have those guys ready to play. That's what I hope. I hope that the injuries are not as bad as it looks. Because if not, we have a shot. But if we do, we'll all be biting our tongues off and figuring out now what's the next game plan. That's what we got to figure out. So don't lose your heads, guys. Don't lose your heads. Okay? Let's take it. We'll figure it out and see where we go from next week. So appreciate you guys for joining us here. Sholo man, what's going on? What's going on, man? Bolt up. I hope we sit the ones that we need to sit next week going into the bye. No, I agree. Because those are guys that I would not want to lose come the tail end and the tail stretch of the season. So appreciate all of you guys for coming on. Appreciate you guys for hanging out with me. Yes, it sucks that we lost. Yes, it sucks too that we have a lot of these injuries, but we got to stay calm, go in with a new game plan, and we still have to play similar style football to where we are playing hard, we're playing gritty, and we're playing with a purpose. Because we're facing off. I don't like these guys. You guys already know. I freaking hate these guys. That's why I'm hoping that I come into next week where I find out that Derwin James literally body slammed Travis Kelce again. I don't like these guys. So that's why I'm saving up my energy for next week. Because I know it's going to be important. And then we got our week 5. X-ray results should be coming out come this week. It's usually like 1 or 2 days, depending on it, because they just got it today. But they have to go through an MRI thing. It's a whole process that they have to go through to go on to the next, and then that's when they get their determination come the injury statuses from like Wednesday all the way to Friday. So that's why initially we're going to be prepared. So let's take it, let's move on, and let's get prepared for the Chiefs next week. Appreciate all of you guys for jumping up on here. Like, subscribe, hit the bell button, keep you up to date on many Chargers news and more here on Charger Syndicate. We're trying to meet our goals, trying to get to 1,000 subscribers here up on this channel. And we are staying positive, guys. All right? Stay positive for sure. Appreciate all of you guys. We'll see you guys next week, and we'll have the breakdowns. I will also be on the AFC West Roundtable Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 Pacific. You don't want to end up missing it. I know I'm going to have a lot to end up saying in the roundtable, but we just got to take it because, trust me, I ain't going to be the only one having to explain it. My buddy Graf for the Raiders, he has to explain what the hell that was against the Carolina Panthers. That was terrible. That was absolutely terrible. Broncos come away with the win. Happy for my buddy Ben. It was his birthday as well, so he gets to celebrate with a victory for the Broncos. But then we have to see what the Chiefs are looking like. So I'm going to be tuning into that game, and I'm going to watch the Falcons and Chiefs, and I'm going to be doing nothing but evaluating. I'm going to be evaluating this whole game all the way through so that way I can get my mind focused on what we need to do come next week. And again, I understand with all the injuries, I understand with all that, but these are like, this is the important stuff. So, all right, guys, take care of yourselves. We'll see you guys on the next live stream edition of Charger Syndicate here. Like, subscribe, hit the bell button. Let's meet our goals, guys, and let's stay positive and let's get through this together. All right, guys, take care of yourselves, and we'll see you guys soon.